Welcome back, everybody, to video 4 on conversations worth having. And with this video, we're going to move to the second practice. And the second practice is positive framing. And positive framing is really about talking about what you want instead of what you don't want. So if you've got an issue or a problem in front of you, instead of spiraling down talking about the problem, it's talking about where you want to go. And we're going to show you ways to flip from the negative to the positive so that you have a positive frame for your conversations. So traditional problem-solving approach, we're going to use a metaphor of a tree for that, is to really look into and understand the problem. So let's take, for example, low performance. If you think for a moment, what are the outcomes of low performance? If you look around the office, what might you see? You would see absenteeism, low morale, low productivity, dissatisfied customers probably, disengaged staff, and poor quality care. And this is a tree of where you might see low performance in a hospital. Now, if you think about looking into and trying to figure out what's wrong in any one of these areas, why do we have low morale? Or why is productivity so low? Or why are staff disengaged? Just thinking about that typically drops people's energy. The other thing is that even if you go in and you discover all the reasons you have dissatisfied customers, all the reason there's low morale, you're an expert in low performance, but you still don't have any solutions, really, any grounded solutions in how to shift towards high performance. So appreciative inquiry uses a completely different approach. We'll use the same metaphor of the tree, but this time it's an opportunity tree instead of a problem-solving tree. And so we'll flip the trunk to the positive opposite. Instead of investigating what we don't want, we're going to flip it to what the positive opposite of that is, because what we want is high performance. And if we have high performance, then when we look around the organization, what we're going to see is well-being. We're also going to see high morale, high productivity. We'll see satisfied customers, engaged staff, and high quality work. Now, if you think about investigating any one of these things, most people say, I'm up for that conversation. I want to talk about when we have highly satisfied customers, what's going on? And finding out what are people doing, what's of value. So to frame your conversation, instead of framing it around high performance, which is a very broad area, you would say, well, which one of these do we want to talk about first? Or do we want to combine them in some way? How do we provide high quality care which delivers satisfied customers? So then you have a positive frame for your conversation, and you can ask questions that help you discover what creates high quality work and satisfied customers. So if you think about these, which ones of these would you rather talk about? And which one would you rather be an expert in? And it's really your choice. And I would suggest that talking about high performance and having quality conversations in that arena will not only generate expertise in what creates high performance, but it will also create a sense of well-being, possibility, and health in yourself.
So Sherry gave you a wonderful example, and I'm going to kind of deconstruct the flip for you because for many of you, this is something new. And people are really good at naming problems, complaints, challenges. And then what you want to do is flip it. Just simply flip it. She flipped it from low performance to high performance. And really what you want to do is you begin to ask, we told you generative questions. What's going to happen if you have high performance? What's the desired results of the flip? And then you frame a conversation with maybe one or two generative questions so that you really get good at understanding how do we create morale, high morale. So this is from the book, if you have the book and you're following along, the actual book, but it's also in the workbook on page 18. And what I want to do is share with you the first story in our book, Conversations Worth Having, Alicia. And Alicia's at a hospital, and it talks about the ER room, and she's currently coming at the ER staff because of the problem, low patient satisfaction scores. And the flip is she's like, we need high patient satisfaction scores. And what took her some time as she learned about the story of appreciative inquiry is she thought, you know, the outcome of high patient satisfaction scores are patients are feeling genuinely cared for, and I, no matter what my role is in the ER room, I can make a difference for these patients. So the real conversation isn't about the scores, but it's how do you make a difference? How do patients feel genuinely cared for? So you name it, low scores, you flip it, what is the opposite of low scores? It's going to be high scores. And then you have a conversation about the frame, which is what would high scores look like? What impact would high scores have on our team? What impact would high scores actually have on our patients? And think about the green leaves on the tree. And we really want to have a conversation. How do I, as a nurse or the janitor or the CNA, how do I make a difference? And how do we give genuine care? Not just care because we have to care for our patients, but what does it mean to be genuinely caring for a patient? So the generative questions you're going to have a conversation are, you know, tell me about a time you made a positive difference in someone's life in the ER room. And this, you don't know if the stories will be about a patient's parent, or even that you made a positive difference for the nursing staff in the ER room. Another question is, tell me about a time when a patient expressed they felt genuinely cared for. And you want to gather the stories and share the stories so you can come up with the ways to really deliver genuine care for each and every patient. And so the questions are really around, as you see, I've transformed, they're not about high scores, but what is the outcome of the high scores? That's where we want to go into and come up with the solutions and the ideas of better patient care. Sherry, you want to walk them through another problem situation?
Sure. So here's the situation. I'm always the one to stay late and it's not fair. The positive opposite of that might be that the workload and timing are shared fairly. If you did an opportunity tree around that, what you might discover is that the outcomes are teamwork and commitment, real effective and efficient work in the workplace, a real sense of fairness, that people can depend upon each other and they trust each other to have each other's back, and that they care and support for each other so that they're not just looking out for myself. And so you might look at that and say, well, we could have a conversation about any one of those, or what's the real topic that we want to inquire into? So it doesn't have to be just inquiring into one of those specifically. You might look at creating a frame that covers all of that. And so your frame might actually, do you want to go to the next slide?
Sure.
Your frame might actually be to say, we're getting it done together, which covers all of that. And then the kinds of questions that people might ask would be sometimes even on our busiest days. We all get out on time. That would be a first thing. So how do we work together on those days? that delivers quality and efficiency? How might we work together to minimize having to work late? And if we do have to work late, how might we share the load in ways that really feels fair when it comes to having to stay late? And you're in a totally different conversation that way.
Yeah. So what we'd love to have you practice doing is choosing a situation, practicing the flip to the positive opposite, and then really frame the conversation about if you achieve the positive opposite, how would you frame it? What do you really want to have a conversation about? In your workbook, turn to page 19, and in the first square we have name it, and the problem we put down is high turnover and absenteeism at work. And the opposite, oh, go ahead, Sherry.
I was going to say, maybe what we do is we have them pause the video for a minute and try it before we give them the answers.
Okay, this would be a great time to pause the video, fill in the flip it, the frame it, and write 1 or 2 genitive questions.
Yeah.
And then come on back and we'll show you what we have. All right, welcome back. So the flip it was obvious, low turnover, exceptional attendance. But the frame it is, we really want to have a conversation of why do people love working here? Or that the frame is, people love working here. So 2 genitive questions would be to go around to your staff and to your team and say, what do you like best about working here? What are 3 wishes do you have to make this a great place to work? And then you can go out and hear the story and the answers to these questions and begin to create that environment where people love working here. So once again, we're at an end to this video, and we have at the end of the workbook on page 20, a list of applications, reflections, and ideas. So you begin to think about generative questions and positive framing. And the point here is you need both of these practices. Which one you start with depends on where you are in the situation. And I'd like to point out that if you're in a conversation and you're learning to ask generative questions, the flipping begins to happen almost organically because you know how to ask generative questions. And sometimes, as we gave you in this video series, this video here, you may have time to frame a problem to the positive opposite, and you're within, from the positive opposite to the frame, you begin to ask generative questions to come up with your frame. And then once you have your frame, you're asking generative questions to come up with the solutions to this frame. Sherry, do you want to add anything else before we call it a wrap on this?
Sure. The only thing that I would suggest is resist the urge to just jump towards solutions. So hold your questions about how might we get to solutions till after you've asked questions that surface new knowledge, like what do you know about this topic and when have we been at our best? Or first kind of diverge and create possibilities, new knowledge, and deepen your understanding of something, because then when you go to ask questions that move you to solutions, you're going to have a great deal more possibilities for how you might move forward together.
All right, so thank you again for joining us. This was video 4, which was positive framing, the second practice of conversations worth having.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.